A compelling, notable, and respectable actor in the Hollywood realm, he's an intelligent and confident actor who starred in many movies and TV series like Sherlock Holmes, Star Trek Into Darkness, Doctor Strange, Thor Ragnarok, and of course Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. With his dashing good looks and incredible acting skills, it comes as no surprise that Benedict reached a level of fame that he has. His captivating features and blue and green heterochromia eyes make watching him on the big screen even more entertaining. Cumberbatch's British accent and 6-foot-tall stature certainly didn't hurt his chances of becoming a successful actor either. This critically acclaimed actor has already crossed many items off an aspiring actor's bucket list. He's covered the awards spectrum from winning 6 Primetime Emmy Awards all the way to being nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor. These are accomplishments that only a few celebrities can say they've achieved. But the question that still remains is why Cumberbatch? Keep watching to find out what makes Benedict different from other actors and a well-known figure around the world. Childhood and background. Benedict Cumberbatch's parents, Timothy Carlton and Wanda Ventham, welcomed him into the world on July 9, 1976, in the Queen Charlotte's and Chelsea Hospital in London, England. Benedict's parents are known for their own TV series, A Family at War, which was a British drama TV series that kick-started their acting careers.
Sounds as if you've done this before.
No, I have not.
I'd like to buy you one.
No, love.
Yes, tomorrow afternoon when I go and get the car.
The two met on their show and have been married since 1976. Since acting was a significant part of his parents' lives, some may say that there was pressure from his parents to pursue an acting career. Some have also said that his parents heavily influenced him to become an actor at a young age, which he denied in an interview with Black Tree TV.
A pressure on you to really go down this?
Never. They were good in that way, and really good in that way, in the way they kind of wanted me to know all the pitfalls.
They kind of wanted me to know all of the pitfalls of acting and discouraged me and try to offer something better than they had, and they really did that. They were selfless in how hard they worked to afford my education, but also beyond that, just really good role models within their profession. Benedict Cumberbatch has said he often finds his motivation by trying to mimic his parents' work ethic and the accomplishments they've achieved throughout their lives. One of the motivating factors for me to get out of bed in the morning and just try to do a good day's work is to make them proud. You may be wondering where his last name comes from if his parents' last names are Carlton and Ventham. Cumberbatch receives this question daily. His most recent encounter with the question came from Madonna, the Queen of Pop. He responded to her question of if that's his actual real name with a witty, humorous, and sly comeback, the same comebacks he usually gives back to those who comment on his unique name.
Benedict Cumberbatch, is that really your name? And I went, yes, it is, Madonna.
As complicated as it may seem, Cumberbatch inherited the surname from his Barbados ancestors, specifically a man named Abraham Carlton. Abraham lived from 1726 to 1785 and decided in the year 1753 to switch it up and adopt the name Abraham Carlton Cumberbatch. Needless to say, he did so because he had to inherit the family plantation located in Barbados under the exact words in Abraham's grandfather's will. There were no male descendants in the will, therefore the surname had to be introduced. Cumberbatch is also the grandson of submarine commander Henry Carlton Cumberbatch and a great-grandson of diplomat Harry Arnold Cumberbatch, CMG, hinting towards the difference between his last name and his parents' last name. Although the backstory of Cumberbatch is a bit redundant, Benedict would later learn to love his last name. Cumberbatch brought him an abundance of attention in the world of Hollywood and also left a lasting impact as it played the role of a stage name. Cumberbatch attended boarding school at Bramblety School in West Sussex and Harrow School. During his first time at Harrow, he was an art scholar, receiving an art scholarship, and was a participating member of the Radigan Society, which was the most popular dramatic arts club in the school at the time. It was here that his love for performing began. Aside from his studies, he participated in school plays through the Radigan Society that introduced him to the art of acting. He starred in all of his school Shakespearean plays, the most influential being A Midsummer Night's Dream, where he played the role of Titania at the age of 12. After his time at boarding school, Cumberbatch pursued his own path of benevolence. He used his kindness and knowledge to spread it to those in need. After his first half of schooling, he took a year off to volunteer to teach English in the Tibetan monastery in Darjeeling, India. There, he taught Buddhist monks the English language as an extension of his word, and returned to his higher education after he had finished teaching in India. Cumberbatch returned to Great Britain to continue his training for his acting career at the University of Manchester, pursuing drama and obtaining his master's degree in classical acting at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts. As he was finishing university, Cumberbatch had already connected with acting agents to set up his future career, using his acting diploma to its fullest extent. While it may seem like Cumberbatch was the only child from a media's perspective, he actually had a half-sister, Tracy Peacock, a wonderful addition to the family from his mother's first marriage. The two siblings grew up 18 years apart, as Tracy stayed with her biological mother, Wanda, after the divorce between Wanda Venthamand and James Tabernacle, her biological father. The highly respected family dynamic has remained to just Timothy, Wanda, Tracy, and Benedict. The sibling duo was very close as Tracy grew up babysitting Benedict. Benedict respected his sister as he declared her gifted. She spent her time painting canvases, building frames, and working with carpentry. She worked alone and made elaborate Christmas and celebratory cards, showing the giftedness that she had gained over the years. They credit their close bond with each other to the times that Tracy would babysit Benedict as a young child. A time they shared together to prove this bond was when Tracy forgot that Benedict was on a rooftop outside of their childhood home. She heard him crying outside in the snow and raced to go get him. She quickly got him down and placed him in front of a heater before their parents got home because he needed to defrost. They now reminisce and laugh about this time together as it reminded them of how connected they were. Their personal lives were a part of each other's lives, and Tracy wanted to make that known. Tracy wanted the world to know how serious she took her brother's life, as she would go into protective mode when it came to Cumberbatch's dating life. The media got a hoot out of this after Cumberbatch split with girlfriend Anna Jones, and Tracy had a few words to say about the breakup. You'd have to be a pretty smart cookie to keep up with him. I think that's why possibly he has trouble with girlfriends. Tracy Peacock was married to her husband and had a child, Emily, who's now 34 years old. 27 years after her daughter was born, Tracy was diagnosed with brain cancer in 2014. Unfortunately, Cumberbatch's sister succumbed to the illness and passed away in 2021. Cumberbatch kept this diagnosis a secret from the media the past few years, as it was important to him to keep family business away from his acting business. Now Benedict takes time for him and his family to grieve the loss of a loved one. The domino effect of Cumberbatch's childhood and the things that happened in his adult life contributed to his successful career. The man of the hour. Benedict has many more fun facts about him besides the history of his name, which really isn't all that fun. Cumberbatch actually has a rare condition called heterochromia iritis. This means that the iris in one eye has a different color than the iris in the other eye, making it so that Cumberbatch actually has two different colored eyes. One of his eyes is blue and the other green. Benedict isn't Benedict without his veggies. He's mentioned in many interviews that he stays true to his efforts of being vegan, a choice that a lot of actors have made to maintain their physical and mental health. He made the choice to become vegan in 2018 because he was fascinated by the way that food turns into energy. He'll certainly be needing that energy for his upcoming roles. Before he made his choice to become healthy and stay fresh, he chose to marry the love of his life. As a pure romantic does, Cumberbatch said "I do" on Valentine's Day when he married his beautiful wife on February 14, 2015, with a small ceremony at the Church of St. Peter and St. Paul in Mottestone, a village on the Isle of Wight in England. Their reception took place at a nearby Mottestone Manor. Benedict and his wife Sophie Hunter provide not only for their family, but they support people around the world. We know that early on in Cumberbatch's life, he took a break from school to teach English to Buddhists in India. But he recently has been providing support for Ukraine. He's offered to partake in the British government's housing plan, Homes for Ukraine, which focuses on enabling British people to take in Ukrainian refugees in the midst of this horrific war. Along with his efforts to support those who support him, he takes his kindness and spreads it out through the Hollywood community. Notable works, 2000 to 2013. This British native, theater-inspired, and well-respected actor, Benedict Timothy Carl Cumberbatch, has a strong resume that credits him for his recent spotlight in major blockbuster hits. As many movie seekers already know, Cumberbatch is well known for his talent in the theater, television, film, and radio industries. As we know, he acquired an agent following his university studies that led him to his first role in the TV show Silent Witness, a British crime drama series. He then landed a gig in the film Fields of Gold. It wasn't until 2004 when he landed his life-altering role in the film Hawking. Cumberbatch played the main character, Stephen Hawking, in this dramatic documentary about the life of Stephen Hawking himself. It was because of this film that his acting career started to take off. After Hawking was released to the public, he received 2 nominations in honor of this award-winning film. He received a 2005 nomination for the British Academy Television Award for Best Actor in Best Single Drama.
Oh, no, thanks. Thank you very much.
Cumberbatch took his newfound recognition and ran with it. After multiple successions with a role as Edmund Talbot in the TV show To the Ends of the Earth, he landed his next big project, Amazing Grace, in 2006, which later would earn Cumberbatch a nomination for the British Breakthrough Acting Award.
Let him throw the heavy rocks. Provide the shocks. Put Lord Tarleton in the stocks.
As Cumberbatch was slowly becoming one of the most well-known breakthrough actors in England, he needed a way to gravitate to an audience where TV shows were addicting to watch and even more entertaining to follow. This led to the development of Sherlock, a 2010 British drama TV series where Cumberbatch was the lead role in the show, filling the large shoes of Sherlock Holmes himself.
The name's Sherlock Holmes and the address is 221B Baker Street. Afternoon.
He later earned an Emmy in 2014 for his performance, gripping the nation with his portrayal and making the people beg for more. The Today Show has even highlighted Cumberbatch's talents as Sherlock, using the words, "Sherlock is just one on a list of iconic characters, both fictional and real, that have made Benedict Cumberbatch a household name." A year after Sherlock Holmes was introduced to the competitive nature of Hollywood, and after Cumberbatch was recognized for his wonderful efforts in the show, he landed his first high-profile project. Released in 2011, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy would become an Oscar-nominated film. This secretive and clue-collecting movie involved many famous actors in an adaptation of a 1974 British novel written by John le Carre.
No, nothing would surprise me about Ricky Tarr.
And if I told you we happen to know £30,000 mysteriously appeared in his bank account last month, would that surprise you?
This spy thriller film includes a spy, George Smiley, played by Gary Oldman during the Cold War era. It follows an investigation of a probable double agent within MI6. Cumberbatch, at just the age of 34, played the character Peter Gilliam, which happened to match the eerie and strategic side of Cumberbatch himself. Cumberbatch acknowledges that his co-actors in this film, who played spies that kept national secrets, were far more better actors than he will ever be.
Or spy on your own and keep it secret from your family, then you're probably a better actor than I'll ever be.
Highlighting his wittiness as well as his self-awareness that there's still improvement for the future of his acting career. Now, at age 45, with an extensive list of roles in 67 award-winning movies, 38 since Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy was released, and 158 nominations for his work, Cumberbatch is well and truly an impactful Hollywood star to say the least. Following his Peter Gilliam persona in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, he earned the nomination for a BIFA award for Best Supporting Actor in the same year that Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy was released. In the same year as Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, in fact 14 days after Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy was released, his efforts were even more appreciated as he was hired to perform the role of Peter Gilliam in the 2011 movie War Horse. War Horse was intended to be a British war novel that took place during World War I. This film was yet another retelling of the popular book War Horse, published in 1982. It introduced the horse and protagonist of the movie, Joey, along with his 15-year-old owner, Albert, played by Jeremy Irvine.
When I whistle, you've got to come. Understand?
Jeremy was a remarkable actor that became a new frequent co-worker for Cumberbatch. The movie was a combined retelling of the horse's experiences and encounters with being a horse bought for the Britain Army services in France during World War I. This beautifully crafted film mentions the importance of animal-to-person connections, especially when reminiscing on an emotional time in many people's lives, the First World War. Cumberbatch played the role of Major Jamie Stewart, a ruthless and straight-up figure that Albert learns to despise.
Still, not a patch on my top bone.
Cumberbatch slid into the role of an authoritative figure, which would play out attentively as we see his future leader roles in various productions. This choice to make Benedict an authoritative figure in his first Oscar nominee movie debut was highly strategic. Cumberbatch's role as Major Jamie Stewart tested his Boy Scout roots, as he mentions in an interview with his colleague, Tom Hiddleston, who also plays a higher figure role in the movie, Captain James Nichols, stating,
"We all had our learning curves. Mine was even more severe. I hadn't really ridden since I was 12.
He was intimidated to ride the horse and also intimidated by the pressure of creating a relationship with the horse, since that was the entire theme of the movie. He had nothing to worry about, however, as he ended up making a great relationship with the horse he had to ride while making the film. This gave him first-hand experience on seeing the impact an emotional connection between animals and men can have on a person. This still stays with him today. Cumberbatch's knowledge of the war background, due to his ancestors, helped him improve his lines within the movie. It also allowed for Benedict to realize how war has changed the world and Britain itself. He alludes to how his role in the movie creates this questionability within his character that opened the conversation about the stigma behind PTSD. The conversation consisted of avoiding the expectation that soldiers and war veterans are fine after war, and to plan action as to how we, as a society, can counter this idea and provide support for those who have served. His role also opened up his internal thoughts about how we, as a society, continue to make mistakes around the world within wars. These mistakes are setbacks. He lists the mistakes as charging against others when unnecessary. He mentions how the US had done this in the Gulf War, and especially undermining military weapons that we took for granted that took too many lives. Cumberbatch also mentions that there are people that served that we're still grieving for, which was an emotional statement for his viewers to ponder. He took the real-world concepts that he's learned from his role in this Oscar-nominated film and spoke on how military actions can leave an impact on the world as a whole. This depicts how Cumberbatch's caring personality can shine through even in his roles of authoritative and rather serious positions. Movie after movie, press tour after press tour. Benedict Cumberbatch worked himself beyond compare as he released yet another blockbuster movie in the same year, 2011, the year of fame for the 35-year-old actor at the time. Not only did Cumberbatch prove his acting abilities to himself and viewers, but also to directors across the world. Keeping up with the theme of war-related movies, Cumberbatch took an unexpected turn considering his previous main roles in his films. Wreckers, released in 2011, had Cumberbatch playing David, known mostly as Dave, in a love story with his companion Dawn, Claire Foy, that highlights the reality of PTSD affecting family dynamics.
I was afraid it was me.
Well, it's me. Happy now?
Christ! The drama performance was enhanced by Cumberbatch's role, a providing husband and reliable brother. His character tests the reality that as Cumberbatch's new persona, filling the role of a teacher and a husband who has to take care of his mentally ill brother was intriguing to the actor.
Look!
Look,
no!
Look at me. It's all right. It's all right. Look at me.
It widened his perspective of what he was capable of completing in future movies. In the midst of filming his last 3 films in 2011, he was preparing for his next 2 roles in The Hollow Crown and Parade's End. While backstage preparing for these 2 projects,
now is the winter of our discontent.
He was appreciated for his efforts in his early 2000s works years later. Major movie critics and film agencies were starting to catch on to Cumberbatch's work as he trekked through his extensive work. The Hollow Crown, a reworking of the infamous story of the 3 kings, Richard II, Henry IV, and Henry V, and their battle to survive, was a breath of fresh air for Benedict, as it was muscle memory for him to perform this character, Richard III. Due to his Shakespearean start in the world of acting, Cumberbatch felt most comfortable in this part of his career. In 2012, approximately a month later, Benedict decided he wanted to continue practicing his acting in the world of war, falling into the hands of a director who was producing a 5-part miniseries surrounding the idea of World War I, more specifically in the Edwardian era. Parade's End steers clear of the Shakespearean realm, but happened to be written by a playwright who goes by the name of Tom Stoppard. Tom wrote Shakespeare in Love and Empire of the Sun, and wanted to mesh the elements of these 2 written works into a miniseries with a Shakespearean expert that's Cumberbatch himself.
The Germans are itching to get at the Russians. France will declare war on Germany. That's what the French-Russian pact is for.
If you don't stop, I'm going to jump.
Parade's End charges full steam ahead on the war aspect of England in the early 1900s. Benedict plays Christopher Tietjens, who happens to be an aristocrat trying to make a life for his partner, Sylvia Tietjens, played by Rebecca Hall. Similarly to his earlier roles, Benedict is used to this poor, lost, and confused boy who is trying to navigate his way through life without any support. This boy often compromises his life values for those that he loves. This is a paralleled image that critics and viewers saw in his off-screen personality, which won over millions of fans. Speaking of fans, Cumberbatch has quite the following behind him that's grown over the past 10 years. His fanbase Cumbermania came to be a few months after Sherlock, one of his most-watched TV shows, was released. And his viewers noticed that Benedict himself was one to be adored. His fanbase came up with the name Cumbermania, as it was a thrill to watch and even easier to look at. Those that are enthused with Cumberbatch's looks and his talented roles in British and English movies will definitely be members of this highly respected fandom. A great time to be part of this actor's fanbase was around the time of his award-winning, still talked about in the media, blockbuster of the year 2012, The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey. Oh, was this one a hit? Cumberbatch's more creative side had to be pulled out of his new character, Smaug, a dragon. This was an unusual and unexpected role for Cumberbatch, to say the least. The director's role was to find someone that had the personality to fit a dragon, as well as have the perfect voice. In his videotape audition, Cumberbatch acted out the part by using his hands and head motions to exacerbate the emotion behind his future character of Smaug.
I hear your breath. I feel your air. I hear your breath. I feel your air.
A behind-the-scenes look at Cumberbatch's audition for the position to play Smaug in the new major motion picture mentions that Cumberbatch didn't hear a call back for the position for an entire year, before they decided that he was a perfect pick for the character of Smaug. When I first met him, the director, I said, look, you have to acknowledge here that this is going to be a second-half performance. My dad read The Hobbit to me at 6 or 7, and I was really lucky my dad's an extraordinary actor. So he brought this already very rich, magic, visionary world of hobbits, giants, and living out all the parts. He really brought it to life. This was one of the many times that he's credited his parents, especially his father, to his extreme talents in the acting world. He had grown up listening to the novel The Hobbit, which he remarks as being one of the reasons he was so good at filling the role of Smaug. This voiceover and immaculate representation of Smaug opened up plenty of other opportunities in terms of future films that Benedict would later star in. This new setting for Cumberbatch, a made-up world including dragons and fictional characters, allowed him to reach a new audience. One that was younger, but still attentive enough to appreciate his skills as an actor. As Benedict reached his younger audiences, he landed a role as Khan in Star Trek, a 2013 award-winning film revolving around the crisis that the fictional world was facing. An unstoppable force was entering their own organization, Enterprise, and Captain Kirk, played by Chris Pine, leads his team to defeat a one-man weapon of mass destruction. Khan, on the opposite side of good in this movie, calls himself a psychological terrorist. Playing the villainous role was not out of Cumberbatch's repertoire.
A smokescreen to conceal my true identity. My name is Khan.
In this sci-fi sequel, Cumberbatch took on the role of someone who he claims is a psychological terrorist. He's someone who can plant an idea that's as vicious as a bomb and explode loyalties and expose relationships, and try and turn people against one another to do his bidding. Benedict found this role rather easily after his contract for The Hobbit, in terms of playing the harsh villain that has to bring danger upon those around him. The actor continued to describe why he believed this role was a good fit for him, coming off of playing a villain in his previous movie. He, Khan, really disrupts the unity aboard the ship, both physically and mentally, and he's a worthy adversary. There's a lot of shadow play going on with him and Kirk and Spock. Kirk primarily, but both of those characters, he knows how to manipulate them.
I will walk over your cold corpses to recover my people.
This manipulation tactic threw Cumberbatch for a loop, as it wasn't something he was particularly used to, but as he had said in multiple interviews, Cumberbatch is always up for a challenge. One of his most honorable and soul-crushing titles that he's worked on as a confident actor was 12 Years a Slave.
I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob.
Benedict's intriguing passion for history shone through with his new role in 12 Years a Slave. This sad but true story consists of a boy named Solomon Northup, and his journey in and out of slavery. Northup has fought for survival and freedom during the pre-Civil War times, and lives as a free black man in upstate New York, before he sold into slavery, specifically into the hands of Cumberbatch's character, Ford, on his own plantation. This biographical, deep movie about slavery was introduced to Hollywood in 2013, and Cumberbatch played his part exceptionally well in terms of the circumstance he was given. Cumberbatch plays the villain yet again in this performance, but it has its strings attached that are much more than just surface level. In an interview with Cumberbatch, he mentions how he feels for Ford as he was born into his circumstances, but in no means does that make it right to continue the cowardness that was happening in the South during pre-Civil War times. The most agonizing moment for Ford is the fact that he legit hands the rights to him over in order to pay off his debt.
And it's like a loan, it's like a mortgage in a way. It's loaning this entity, this fiscally valuable human being, in lieu of him paying back a debt that he owes.
It's horrendous. I know he's feeling the Christian to the lion, he knows what he's doing, and it tortures his soul, but he still does it. That's kind of the demarcation that's where you know how good a man is he's not truly good. You can't be.
It's hard to see the good in a person at that moment in time.
Cumberbatch speaks on the topic of how his character actions should never be validated, and his actions were a large-scale view on the specific historical impacts that were made viewable for his audiences because of the role that Benedict played in 12 Years a Slave. This movie was a wake-up call for change. After such a groundbreaking movie was released, a biography film was also discovered in 2015. This film, The Fifth Estate, was one of Cumberbatch's less popular films despite being the main character.
This is more coverage than all the leaks we have had combined. We're winning an information war.
The Fifth Estate followed along the lines of the plot of Star Trek, where there was an organization that needed to be overthrown because there were bad guys trying to take over the good guys. You've heard that one before, right? Government secrets, corporate schemes, and everyday crime? With a whopping 35% on Rotten Tomatoes, The Fifth Estate is ranked among one of Cumberbatch's lesser-known films. Benedict's track record of starring in Hollywood blockbusters multiple times a year gave him the exposure he needed to thrive on the big stage. As he's one of the most hardworking actors in the business, this British man never gave up and kept pushing through movie by movie, TV show to TV show. It not only takes dedication to star in movies that come out 3 times per year, but also love for the art. In 2013, a few months after The Fifth Estate, Cumberbatch whipped out another film, August Osage County. This movie focused on topics that were a bit heavier: drug addiction, cancer, alcohol problems, family tragedy, and so many more tear-jerking moments consumed this movie.
Liberace. Better get yourself together. We have to get home and take care of those damn dogs. They've probably eaten the drapes by now.
This was not a shock, as Benedict had to play the role of little Charles Aiken, a 37-year-old male who's not supported at home, especially neglected by his mother, who's very negative towards him. His character, Little Charles, hadn't found his purpose in life, and he believes his time is running out. Charles is the nephew of Ivy, son of Maddie Faye Aiken and Charlie Aiken, and the cousin of the 3 sisters, Ivy, Karen, and Barbara, in the movie. He perfectly switched his mindset to participate in this role of the struggling boy who can't find a way out.
And I think his mother despairs, and that's where her anguish comes from, and other things as the plot reveals. But I think in her sibling's failure, she sees one of her own.
In the movie, he relies on his mother to give him the love he so desperately needs, but she can't provide.
Wanted to put you at the kids' table, but they wouldn't let me.
You goddamn gunsy goofball!
All right. Nobody's so sorry.
This stretch of emotion for Benedict was a newfound characteristic that was deployed in his future roles. The directors in Hollywood saw this stretch and most definitely put it to use. Missing the role of Smaug in his first Hobbit movie, Cumberbatch returned to work for director Peter Jackson in December of 2013, fulfilling the role of Smaug yet again in The Hobbit: The Desolation of Smaug.
He sent you in here for the Arkenstone, didn't he?
During this production, Cumberbatch was put under the stress of a motion picture suit. He immersed himself into the role completely, which was the extra step this actor needed to prove that he can be the best Smaug there ever was. Using motion capture dots placed over his face which captured his every move, Cumberbatch was placed into the film and blew critics away with his performance. Crawling, clawing, screeching, every detail that he provided was captured in this major motion picture. Soon after, he won an MTV Movie Award for his part in Star Trek Into Darkness for Favorite Actor, nominated by many. This was a token of motivation for the movie star. Post-MTV Movie Award, The Imitation Game was released in August of 2014, and this movie was just another huge stepping stone for Cumberbatch's acting career. The step from great to best.
They send a weather report every day at 6 a.m. So that's 3 words we know will be in every 6 a.m. message. Weather, obviously, and Heil bloody Hitler. Heil bloody Hitler.
Featured on the cover of the film, Cumberbatch returned to what he does best, performing in a war movie, only this time covering World War II. The Imitation Game is based on cryptanalyst Alan Turing, played by the man himself, Benedict Cumberbatch. Turing tried to navigate himself and his team of codebreakers in Britain's top-secret government code. This biography, drama thriller manifests in the darkest days of World War II and allows for Cumberbatch to shine as he leads others in decoding German messages during the war. His intelligent background in the realm of war devices and war knowledge provides the platform Benedict needed in order to achieve a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Actor in The Imitation Game. After winning the Oscar, Cumberbatch moved away from the heavy movies to feature in a more lighthearted one. Penguins of Madagascar needed a voice that was deep enough to scare, but interesting enough to make the younger audiences laugh. This 2014 animated film allowed for Benedict to play the role of Classified, a high-ranking CIA animal agent.
Oh, I'm afraid that information is classified.
He plays a triagonist that oversees the North Wind. Unlike his time in The Hobbit, his voice is only heard in this movie, not seen.
You destroyed a $19 million vehicle!
His powerful, low-pitched voice lends itself perfectly to the animal CIA agent, who takes his duties very seriously. This is not surprising, as he's always played the sophisticated roles in his movies, with this being no different, just somewhat humorous, playful, and animated. To no surprise, Cumberbatch reprised his role again, as well as a new one for the third Hobbit movie, The Hobbit: Battle of the Five Armies. Necromancer is the new role for this handsome actor, and he does not let the viewers down. This mysterious villain isn't very apparent in the film, but he's known for his magic and working with bringing things back from the dead, possibly his dragon? You'll have to watch the third Hobbit movie to find out. It was at this time Cumberbatch decided that there was more to life than movies and acting. Benedict and his wife Sophie Hunter had their first child in June of 2015. His name is Christopher Carlton Cumberbatch, a sophisticated name for a baby. This dapper name resembles the dapper qualities his father, Benedict Cumberbatch, also possesses. Biography and crime, two themes that Cumberbatch loves to partake in and act out. His next film, Black Mass, was released in 2015. It was based on the true story of James Whitey Bulger, an Irish mob godfather. Mob wasn't a genre of film that was necessarily covered by Cumberbatch before. However, he managed to still fully embody the character of Billy Bulger, who was the brother, a state senator, and a Boston public figure.
You ought to come over to dinner sometime. Mary and the kids would love to see you.
His next work was Zoolander 2. No one quite knows why he wasn't featured in the first Zoolander, but he sure made his presence known in the second movie of the series. The movie was released in the early parts of 2016, failing miserably in the industry, and essentially deemed a flop. But not all of it was Benedict's fault, though. The other actors, Will Ferrell, Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, Kristen Wiig, and so many more were a part of only a $28 million project that wasn't loved by many. Benedict cut his losses by joining the largest project he's done thus far, Doctor Strange. One of the most marvelous cinematic masterpieces in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a billion-dollar project that Cumberbatch had the opportunity and pleasure of taking part in. Doctor Strange was the highest-ranked Marvel character to be added to the MCU.
My name is Dr. Stephen Strange.
You are a doctor.
His work as Doctor Strange has pushed Marvel's universe to its extreme boundaries. Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, with the help of mystical allies both old and new, traverses the mind-bending and dangerous alternate realities of the multiverse to confront a mysterious new adversary. Being one of the most loved characters in the MCU, Cumberbatch felt lucky enough to play him, but didn't feel the need to play Doctor Strange, as he said the character was a dated, sexist surgeon-turned-sorcerer. Benedict reveals with sources that before he signed the contract to play Doctor Strange, he had his doubts and did feel the need to play the part. I kind of had my doubts about it. From just going into the comics, I thought, this is a very dated, sexist character, Cumberbatch said. And it's very tied up in that crossover, that kind of East meets West occultism movement of the 60s and 70s. Little did he know that this role would land him in even bigger productions such as Avengers: Infinity War and Avengers: Endgame.
I'm Dr. Stephen Strange. I need you to come with me.
Doctor Strange has a strong personality, one that sometimes can be depicted as rude. This was not a role that Benedict wanted to play in one of the biggest movie masterpieces ever created. Although his doubts were valid, there was not a single other soul more perfect for this crazed doctor. The directors of Marvel actually delayed the filming of the movie 6 months just to have Benedict fill the large role that was Doctor Strange. One could say that this was the major turning point of his career. Left and right, kids of all ages and adults of all kinds were obsessing over the new Marvel character and demanded he was in future films. Cumberbatch is never comfortable with staying within his role. He tests the limits, he goes beyond measures, and destroys boundaries, which creates this new persona for each character he plays. It's comforting to know that Cumberbatch is quite game exploring all different kinds of Doctor Strange. In March of 2017, Cumberbatch's world did a 180 once again. Him and his wife Sophie Hunter welcomed their second son, Hal Auden Cumberbatch, into the world, only a couple years apart from his older brother. I can't imagine the trouble they get into now and how they're going to be best of friends when they grow up, especially since they have a cool superhero dad to brag about at school. Taking 6 months to be with his family and newborn was plenty of time for this actor. He needed to come back to theaters as he had just stepped foot into the largest superhero universe that Hollywood has ever seen. His next 2 movies were major hits in the US. The Current War and The Child in Time were 2 films that eased him back into the acting position as he had just come off of maternity leave for his wife, of course. Benedict took a break from only filming movies that were set in historic times and started to dabble in the modern world. The current war was set in the time of Thomas Edison, who Cumberbatch played, and goes over the events that it took to bring electricity to the modern world. This was a mellow movie to showcase Benedict's competitive nature, as I'm sure we've seen through his acting portfolio.
Counteroffer, how about I don't give you what you want, but you give me everything I want?
The following movie a month later, The Child in Time, would have to be accredited to the brand new additions to his family, Christopher and Hal. This dramaticized movie was released in 2017, placing Benedict as the main character, Stephen Lewis. He fills the role of dad who loses his only child to abduction, a fear no parent wants to experience. The new dad immerses himself in this role as he recently found out how it feels to have kids of his own. Speaking of immersing in a role, soon after the previous film, Cumberbatch starred in the award-winning superhero film, Thor Ragnarok. This is the 17th film in the Marvel comic movie series, and arguably one of the most crucial of them all. Doctor Strange, the character that he knows and has learned to love, gives Thor essential information about the lingering location of Odin.
So, if I were to tell you where Odin was, all parties concerned would promptly return to Asgard?
Promptly.
Great.
Doctor Strange then sends Loki and Thor to Norway to meet their father, a controversial turning point in the film, and also happened to be the last that viewers saw of Doctor Strange in the movie. Serving the purpose of protecting the world from dangerous magic and mystical threats, Doctor Strange will never be forgotten for his essential performance in Thor Ragnarok. Notable works, 2018 to present. An even bigger step up in the Marvel Universe, Cumberbatch landed a role in the largest, most recognized, and positively recepted movie in all of the MCU. This groundbreaking film, released in 2018, allowed Benedict to showcase his improvisation skills. Avengers: Infinity War also demonstrated the ever-so-intense relationship between Tony Stark and Doctor Strange, revealing to the viewers the dominant personality that Cumberbatch will have on screen for the rest of his career up until present day. The improvised line in Marvel's highest-grossing film left Cumberbatch's mouth at the most perfect time.
Protecting your reality, douchebag.
This highly shocking line left thousands of people leaving the theaters laughing and talking for days. Cumberbatch reminisces on his improvised line often in interviews. I remember on set when I called him a douchebag. There was this sort of ripple effect. My god, did you just call Iron Man a douchebag? They kept it. Good for them. And then it got the same kind of response at the cinema. I got bored of being compared to Liberace or whatever other retorts the guy with the same camp goatee had opposite me, so I tried to knock him down. It's great fun to play with that stuff. You find your feet. The more times you do it, the more familiar it becomes. To much surprise, Cumberbatch had worldwide movie success playing the titular character in the 2018 animated version of The Grinch.
I'm going to steal their Christmas.
He had a lot of competition having to fill the role that Jim Carrey first had in the non-animated Grinch movie released in 2000. He played his own version of the Grinch that was equally as intimidating due to the low tonnage in Cumberbatch's voice. Cumberbatch incorporated family, fun, and humor in the 2018 film released just before the holiday season. Soon after the holiday season ended, Cumberbatch and his wife had their third son, Finn Cumberbatch, who was born in January at the beginning of 2019. A few days after the birth of his son, his next movie, Brexit, was released. Another political biography that involves Cumberbatch, Dominic Cummings, leading a controversial campaign to convince British voters to leave the EU from 2015 to now. Cumberbatch shows his age as he cuts his physical attractiveness points in half in the movie.
Everyone knows who won, but not everyone knows how.
Benedict gathered more acting experiences under his belt to prepare for another dramatic sellout movie, Avengers: Endgame. This 2019 blockbuster film allowed for Doctor Strange to be the leader of the Avengers in the MCU, a title that Benedict will reign forever. His deeply rooted knowledge for the MCU, and his prestigious and cautious lines at the end of the first Avengers movie, made it known to the world that Doctor Strange is strategic with his lines and intentional with his actions. Cumberbatch then unveiled his pattern of connecting back to World War I in his works with the movie 1917. This action war film allows for his reckless side to shine through in this most up-to-date war-related movie that he starred in. His second most recent work continued to be in the MCU, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which released more of Doctor Strange's secrets and his plan to continue to study the Time Stone. But his role in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness isn't even close to the end of his movie career. After playing a major part in the MCU yet again, he did a quick turnaround and started filming for the 12-time Oscar-nominated movie, The Power of the Dog.
25 years since our first run together.
Conclusion. Benedict Cumberbatch has numerous award-winning titles and working titles under his name that'll keep him afloat in Hollywood for many years to come. From war films, to animated children's movies, to drama family films, all the way to being a superhero in the MCU, Cumberbatch has had his fair share of screen time. This handsome actor, one who woos over every crowd, has a lot of life ahead of him and many more awards to receive. Subscribe to see more biographies on your favorite celebrities. See you in the next video.